Rain pounding down like fists on a tin roof, soaking through your threadbare coat, turning the cardboard you've curled up on into a soggy grave. Your fingers, numb and pruned, clutch a crumpled photo of the man who swore he'd love you forever. The same man who just yesterday signed away your entire life in a courtroom that smelled of stale coffee and fresh betrayal. You're Sophia, 32 years old, staring at the neon glow of a diner sign across the street, wondering if jumping in front of the next truck would hurt less than this. Homeless, alone, utterly broken. But what if I told you that in that exact moment of despair, a stranger in a crisp trench coat steps out of the shadows, locks eyes with you, and says 5 words that shatter your world forever? Are you Sophia? You just inherited $47 million. Hold on tight, because this isn't just a story of rags to riches. It's a tale of sweet, scorching revenge that had me gripping my coffee mug so hard it cracked. If you've ever felt the burn of being discarded like yesterday's trash, this one's for you. Hey, legends. If you've ever fantasized about flipping the script on someone who tried to bury you alive, smash that like button right now. Subscribe and ring the bell, because we're diving into one of the most gut-wrenching, fist-pumping Reddit revenge sagas that's ever hit my desk. Trust me. By the end, you'll be cheering so loud your neighbors call the cops. Let's get into it. All right, let's rewind a bit. Because to understand the storm that was about to hit, you need to know the calm before it. Or what passed for calm in Sophia's world. Sophia grew up in a sleepy suburb of Seattle, the kind of place where the biggest drama was the annual bake sale feud over whose apple pie deserved the blue ribbon. She was the quiet one in her family, the middle child sandwiched between her overachieving doctor sister, Elena, and her wildcard brother, Marcus, who could charm his way out of a jail cell with a wink and a grin. Sophia, she was the dreamer, the one who'd sneak into the backyard at midnight with a notebook, scribbling stories about far-off adventures, while the stars blinked like distant fireflies. Her parents, bless their well-meaning but absent hearts, ran a small accounting firm. Dad was the numbers guy, Mom the client whisperer, always jetting off to conferences or late-night audits. They loved Sophia in that practical way, tuition paid, Christmas presents wrapped. But emotional check-ins? Those were as rare as a sunny day in November. "You're fine, Soph," Dad would say over dinner, eyes glued to his ledger. "Just keep your head down and it'll all work out." And head down she did. College was a blur of community college classes and part-time barista shifts, where the steam from the espresso machine burned her palms like a constant reminder, keep pushing, even if it hurts. That's where she met him. Jake. God, the way she tells it, you can almost hear the butterflies in her voice even now, years later. He sauntered into the coffee shop one drizzly afternoon, all broad shoulders and easy smiles, ordering a black coffee with a side of, "What's a girl like you doing in a place like this?" Cliché? Sure. But to Sophia, it was fireworks. He was 28, a rising star at a tech startup downtown, the kind of guy who talked about disrupting industries like it was poetry. She was 24, fresh out of her associates in literature, feeling like a footnote in her own life. Their first date was at a hole-in-the-wall Italian place, candles flickering on red checkered tables, the air thick with garlic and possibility. Jake leaned across the table, his blue eyes locking onto hers, and said, "Sophia, you're not like other girls. You see the world in colors I didn't even know existed." Her heart, it somersaulted. For the first time, someone saw her, really saw her, not as the reliable middle kid, but as a spark waiting to ignite. They married a year later in a backyard ceremony, her in a thrift store gown that hugged her curves like a promise, him in a rented tux that made him look like he'd stepped out of a magazine. Vows exchanged under a canopy of string lights, laughter bubbling like champagne. "I'll always take care of you," he whispered as they danced to an old Elvis record. "You're my everything." Oh, how the fairy tale curdled. The first cracks showed up subtle, like hairline fractures in porcelain you only notice when the light hits just right. Jake's job took off, promotions stacking like Jenga blocks, late nights turning into all-nighters, his phone buzzing like a hornet's nest. Sophia quit the coffee shop to support his dreams, typing up his pitch decks from their cramped one-bedroom apartment, her stories gathering dust in a drawer. "Babe, you're so good at this," he'd say, pecking her cheek without looking up from his laptop. "Couldn't do it without you." but the compliments came laced with barbs. "Why don't you finish that book of yours?" "Oh, right. Who has time when you're busy being my rock star wife?" She laughed it off at first, that tight-chested chuckle you force when your stomach twists. Relatable, right? We've all been there. The partner who starts as your cheerleader and morphs into your critic. Their love a spotlight that burns more than it warms. But Jake? He escalated. Fast. By year 3, the apartment had upgraded to a sleek condo overlooking the Puget Sound. All glass walls and minimalist furniture that made Sophia feel like a smudge on a canvas. Jake's startup hit unicorn status, valuations soaring, champagne toasts at rooftop parties where she stood in the corner, nursing a watered-down gin and tonic, listening to venture capitalists drone about synergies. "Sophia's my secret weapon," Jake would boast, arms slung around her waist like a trophy. "Keeps the home fires burning so I can conquer the world." Laughter from the suits, nods of approval, and her smiling through gritted teeth, the kind of smile that aches in your jaw because saying anything else would shatter the illusion. But illusions crack. Jake's conquests started including late-night texts from work wives, innocent at first, then not. Sophia found lipstick on his collar once, a shade she'd never wear, and when she confronted him, his face twisted into something ugly, veins bulging at his temples. "You're paranoid, Soph, always have been. That's why you need me. To keep you grounded." His words landed like slaps, hot and stinging, leaving invisible welts on her soul. She swallowed it down, because what else could she do? Her family? Elena was too buried in surgeries to notice. Mark is too busy with his bar-hopping escapades. "Jake's a keeper," Mom had said at Christmas, patting Sophia's hand. "Don't rock the boat." Rock the boat she did not, until the boat capsized. It was a Tuesday in late spring, the kind of day where cherry blossoms rained pink confetti on the sidewalks, mocking the gray sludge in Sophia's heart. She'd come home early from a rare writing workshop, her first in years, clutching a notebook filled with half-formed poems about wings clipped and cages gilded. The condo door was ajar, laughter spilling out like spilled wine. She pushed it open, and there it was. Jake, shirtless on their leather couch, tangled with her. Not a stranger, oh no, that would have been kinder. It was Vanessa, his executive assistant, all legs and laugh lines, her head thrown back in ecstasy while his hands roamed like he owned every inch. Time fractured. Sophia's notebook hit the floor with a soft thud, pages fluttering like dying birds. Vanessa yelped, scrambling for a throw pillow. "Jake?" He just sat up, slow and deliberate, like a king dethroned but not defeated. "Soph," he said, voice oily smooth, zipping his fly with infuriating calm. "This isn't what it looks." "Save it," she whispered, her throat closing like a fist around her windpipe. The room spun, the metallic tang of sweat in the air, the faint jasmine of Vanessa's perfume twisting her gut. She backed away, heels catching on the rug, tears blurring the abstract art on the walls into smears of regret. "We're done." Divorce papers hit the mailbox 2 days later, courtesy of Jake's shark of a lawyer. He cited irreconcilable differences, but the real kicker? He wanted everything. The condo? His, bought with his sweat equity. The savings? Drained into business investments he'd conveniently forgotten to mention. Even her wedding ring, that simple gold band she'd pawned her grandmother's locket for, he claimed as marital asset. Court date came and went in a haze of fluorescent lights and legalese. The judge, a stern woman with glasses perched like a hawk's beak, glanced at the file and nodded. "Given the prenup, ma'am, it's straightforward. Mr. Hargrove retains primary assets." Prenup? Sophia hadn't even known there was one. Jake had slipped it into their wedding eve champagne toast. "Just a formality, babe. Protects us both." She'd signed, bleary-eyed and besotted, the fine print blurring into oblivion. Now it was her noose. Walking out of that courthouse, the spring air felt like winter's bite, her coat too thin, her bank account echoing empty. $247.43, enough for a bus ticket and a vending machine sandwich. That night, she crashed on Elena's couch, but her sister, ever the pragmatist, laid it out plain over herbal tea that tasted like regret. "Soph, you can't stay. The kids need the space, and honestly, You two were oil and water. Move on to where? Marcus offered his spare room, but it smelled of stale beer and broken promises, and when he forgot to pay rent on it twice, eviction loomed like a guillotine. Friends? The ones who'd cooed at her wedding faded like old tattoos. Family dinners turned awkward. Mom's tight smiles, Dad's averted eyes. Jake's doing well, he'd say, as if that erased the bruise on her heart. Maybe you two could... No, she couldn't. Wouldn't. So, she fell. Hard. First, a women's shelter downtown, bunk beds creaking under the weight of strangers' snores, the air thick with bleach and unspoken traumas. Mornings blurred into job hunts, barista gigs snatched by teens with fresher faces, admin roles ghosting her emails. Overqualified, they said, or not a culture fit. Nights? Curled in doorways, the city's pulse throbbing around her like an indifferent heartbeat. Rain seeped into her bones, turning joints to rust. Hunger gnawed, a constant companion sharper than any knife. And the thoughts? Oh, they were vipers coiling in the dark. Why me? What did I do wrong? Her reflection in puddle mirrors showed hollow cheeks, eyes shadowed like bruised plums. Jake's Instagram? A poison she couldn't quit scrolling on the shelter's ancient computer. There he was, arm in arm with Vanessa at gala, toasting new chapters with flutes of Dom Perignon. Likes pouring in from mutuals who'd unfollowed her weeks ago. He's thriving. I'm trash. Powerlessness wrapped around her like chains, each link forged from his casual cruelties. The way he'd mock her silly stories over dinner, roll his eyes at her dreams. Stick to what you're good at, Soph. Being my wife. Underestimation. That's what burned deepest. He'd always seen her as the side character in his epic, the loyal NPC who buffs your stats but never steals the show. Disrespect dripped from every babe and backhanded compliment, eroding her like acid rain. And betrayal? It wasn't just the cheating, it was the erasure. He'd rewritten their history in his mind, casting her as the villain who couldn't keep up. Craving justice became her midnight prayer, whispered to the stars that no longer seemed to listen. One day you'll see. One day you'll choke on your own smugness. Weeks bled into months. Summer's sticky heat replaced the rain, turning alleyways into ovens. Sophia scavenged what she could. Half-eaten sandwiches from park benches, clothes from donation bins that hung loose on her frame. She wrote still, feverishly, on napkins and cardboard scraps, stories of heroines who rose from ashes with fire in their veins. But resolve? It flickered like a match in wind. One night under a freeway overpass, sirens wailing in the distance, she hit bottom, curled fetal on a flattened box, sobs racking her body until her ribs ached. She clawed at the concrete, nails splintering. This is it. This is my ending. Unseen. Unmourned. The universe, that capricious bastard, had other plans. It was a Thursday, golden hour painting the streets in honeyed light, when the stranger appeared. Sophia had dragged herself to Pioneer Square, the historic heart of Seattle, where tourists milled like salmon upstream and buskers strummed for spare change. She sat on a low wall, knees drawn up, staring at the cobblestones as if they held answers. Her hair, once a glossy chestnut wave, hung in greasy tangles. A faded hoodie, Jake's old one, irony's cruel joke, swallowed her frame. Footsteps approached, hesitant, then stopped. "Excuse me," a voice said, cultured and calm, like aged whiskey. She didn't look up. Beggars got ignored. It was rule one of survival. But the voice persisted, gentle as a hand on her shoulder. "Ma'am, are you Sophia Reynolds? Or Hargrove? I apologize if I'm mistaken. Reynolds. Her maiden name, dusty as an attic trunk." She lifted her head slow, like a deer scenting a trap. The man was mid-50s, silver at the temples, dressed in a wool trench coat that screamed old money. Wire-rimmed glasses perched on a hawkish nose, and in his hand, a leather briefcase, scuffed but sturdy. Behind him, a black sedan idled at the curb, tinted windows reflecting the dying sun. Who wants to know?" Her voice cracked, raw from disuse, tasting of the granola bar wrapper she'd licked clean that morning. He smiled, faint but genuine, crouching to her level. No towering judgment, just eye to eye. "My name is Edward Langford. I'm an estate attorney from Langford & Associates in Boston. And if you are indeed Sophia Marie Reynolds, born March 15th, 1993, in Seattle General Hospital, then I've been looking for you for months." Her mind reeled, fragments of half-remembered faces flashing. A great aunt she'd met once, at a family funeral, all sharp cheekbones and sharper tongue. Evelyn Voss, the black sheep of the Reynolds clan, who'd fled to the East Coast decades ago after a falling out with Grandpa over unseemly business ventures. Whispers of fortunes made in shipping, lost in speculations, regained in steel. Sophia had been 8, tugging at Mom's skirt. "Who's that lady with the funny accent?" "Someone we don't talk about, dear." Edward's eyes softened, reading the confusion like an open book. "Your great-aunt Evelyn passed 3 weeks ago. Heart attack, peaceful in her sleep. She had no children, no close kin, or so she thought. But in her will, she left everything to you. Unconditionally." He paused, the air between them thickening like fog rolling in off the sound. "Sophia, you just inherited $47 million. The world tilted. Her breath hitched, a gasp that tasted of copper. Blood from biting her lip too hard, or just the shock? Colors sharpened. The stranger's tie, a deep crimson burgundy. The glint of his Rolex, understated wealth. The distant hum of traffic, suddenly symphonic. This can't be real. This is a dream, a cruel, elaborate prank. But Edward's face held no malice, only quiet professionalism laced with something like pity. He opened the briefcase, revealing crisp documents, seals embossed in gold. "I can prove it. But first, would you like to get out of the rain? There's a cafe around the corner." My treat. Rain? It hadn't rained in weeks. But her cheeks were wet, tracks carving clean lines through the grime. She nodded mute, and let him help her up, his hand firm, steady, the first kind touch in months that didn't demand anything in return. The cafe was a cozy nook, all exposed brick, and the rich grounding scent of fresh ground beans. Edward ordered. Black coffee for him, chamomile tea, and a scone for her. "On the house," he insisted, waving off her protests. As she nibbled, flakes crumbling like her defenses, he laid it out. Evelyn Voss had been a titan in her prime. Shipping heiress turned venture capitalist. Her portfolio a web of real estate, tech stakes, and blue-chip stocks. No husband, no heirs, she'd outlived them all. But in a locked drawer, yellowed letters from Sophia's childhood, thank you notes for birthday books, drawings of fantastical beasts. "She kept every one," Edward said, voice softening. "Said you reminded her of herself, the storyteller with fire in her soul. The only one worth a damn in that lot of sheep," she wrote. 47 million. Liquid assets, properties from Beacon Hill brownstones to a vineyard in Napa, even a private island off Maine. "For when the world gets too loud," Evelyn had noted. Taxes would nibble, fees trim, but net, life-altering. Sophia's hands trembled on the teacup, porcelain clinking like wind chimes in a gale. Emotions crashed, disbelief, a tidal wave, grief for a woman she'd barely known. Fury at the years wasted in Jake's shadow, and beneath it all a spark, tiny, insistent. "This is mine, not his. Not theirs. Mine." Edward slid a card across the table. "Take your time. We'll wire funds immediately for living expenses. Say $50K to start." "But Sophia, this changes everything, everything." The word echoed as she stepped back into the evening bustle, the sedan waiting like a chariot. She didn't take it, not yet. Needed air, space to breathe this impossible truth. Walking the waterfront, ferries hooting in the harbor, she felt the shift. Shoulders straightening, the weight of the hoodie less like a shroud, more like armor. Internal dialogue roared, a chorus she'd silenced for years. They thought you were nothing. Jake with his smirks, Elena with her pitying sighs. Your parents blind to the cracks. Powerlessness? It cracked like thin ice under a boot. Justice? It hummed, electric, in her veins. But revenge? That's where the real story ignites. Sophia didn't squander it on petty jabs. No, she simmered, planned, turned that 47 mailers into a forge for her own empire. First, stability. Edward's wire hit her new account, a fresh one, untainted, and she checked into a boutique hotel overlooking the market. the room smelling of lavender and possibility. Hot shower, scalding, washing away months of grit. Room service steak, juicy and forbidden, each bite a rebellion. Sleep came in waves, dreamless and deep. Morning brought clarity. She called Edward from the balcony, gulls wheeling below. Let's make this official, and I need advice. Not just on money, on power. He chuckled warm. Evelyn would approve. She always said money's a tool, darling. Don't let it rust in the drawer. Tools she wielded with precision. First order, a financial advisor, not some Wall Street wolf, but a no-nonsense woman named Rita, with a buzz cut and a Rolodex of quiet geniuses. They mapped it out over Zoom calls in sunlit boardrooms. Diversify. Invest in green tech, women's co-ops, literary nonprofits, echoes of Sophia's buried dreams. But the revenge fund? A shadow slush, $5 million earmarked for Jake's undoing. She dove into self-reinvention like a woman possessed. Personal trainer at dawn, muscles screaming as they rebuilt. Therapist thrice weekly. Unpacking the trauma in sessions that left her wrung out but whole. You're not broken, Sophia, Dr. Lena would say, her voice a steady anchor. You're a phoenix. Time to burn brighter. Books devoured. Biographies of underdogs turned tycoons. Revenge lit like the Count of Monte Cristo. Dante's slow boil mirroring her own. Months passed in a montage of metamorphosis. The hotel became a penthouse lease, then purchase, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the sound like a painting she owned. Hairstylist for a sleek bob, the kind that says, approach with caution. Wardrobe, tailored suits in emerald and navy, fabrics whispering power. And writing? Oh, she unleashed it. NaNoWriMo turned pro. Her first novel, Ashes to Empire, poured. Out in fevered nights, a tale of a discarded wife rising to raise her betrayer's world. Agents clamored. A 6-figure deal landed before the ink dried. But Jake loomed, a specter she stalked from afar. His startup? Hargrove Innovations, now a mid-tier player in app dev, bloated on hype. Vanessa? Promoted to COO, their engagement splashed across LinkedIn like vomit. Sophia's PI, a discreet ex-cop named Torres, fed her intel, Jake's expansion plans, a $20 million funding round for a new HQ. Debts mounting under the gloss, whispers of boardroom tensions. Perfect. The turning point came on a crisp October eve, a year to the day since the divorce. Sophia stood in her penthouse floor-length mirror reflecting a stranger. No, a warrior. The novel's advance check framed on the wall, a talisman. Her phone buzzed. Torres. He's pitching tomorrow. Big fish. If you want in. Resolve hardened, diamond sharp. No more shadows. Time to step into the light and blind him. Internal monologue thrummed. He took my home, my security, myself. Now I take his future, not out of spite, out of balance, fairness, the justice he denied me. Fear flickered. What if he laughs? What if I'm still that girl on the cardboard? But determination drowned it, a roar in her chest. You're Sophia Voss now. Heiress, author, avenger. Planning phase. A masterpiece of chess moves. Rita funneled 10 mil into a shell entity. Phoenix Ventures, nod to her rebirth. Sophia posed as Elena Voss, distant cousin, irony's wink, attending the pitch incognito. The venue, a glass-walled conference center, Seattle skyline glittering like shattered diamonds. She arrived in Louboutin that clicked like countdowns, a sheath dress hugging curves reclaimed through sweat and spite. Disguise minimal, oversized sunglasses, hair pinned, but the aura? Undeniable. Heads turned as she claimed a seat in the back, notebook in lap, pen poised like a stiletto. Jake took the stage, all charisma and cologne, Vanessa at his side in a power suit that screamed, trophy. Slides flashed, revolutionizing remote work, bullshit metrics, pie charts bloated with optimism. Investors leaned in, hooks baited. Sophia's pulse thrummed. A war drum. There he is, the architect of my hell. His voice, that honeyed timbre she'd once melted for, now grated like sandpaper. With this round, we'll scale to billions. Hargrove Innovations, the future starts here. Q&A. Her hand rose steady. Ms. Voss, the moderator said. Jake's eyes scanned, dismissed, another suit. Question for Mr. Hargrove. Your burn rate's aggressive. What's the contingency if the market dips? He leaned into the mic, smirk playing. Great question. We've stress tested. She interrupted, voice velvet over steel. And your CFO? Any personal entanglements that could tank morale? Gasps rippled. Vanessa flushed crimson. Jake's jaw tightened, that telltale vein pulsing. I beg your pardon? Sunglasses off. Slow, deliberate. The room hushed, a collective inhale. Hello, Jake. Pandemonium. His face drained to ash, then bloomed beet red, eyes bulging like a fish on a hook. Soph? What the? You can't be here. Stammering, sweat beading on his brow. Vanessa clutched his arm, nails digging crescents. Investors shifted, whispers snaking. Ex-wife? What's this drama? Sophia rose, unhurried, the click of her heels a metronome of doom. Oh, I can, and I am, as majority stakeholder in this little venture, thanks to a very generous inheritance, I'm here to discuss acquisition. The boardroom erupted. Jake lunged forward, mic cord yanking taut. This is insane. Security. But Phoenix Ventures' offer hit inboxes like lightning. 25 mil cash, triple their valuation, with strings. Jake out, Vanessa demoted, the company rebranded under Voss oversight. Take it, she said, locking eyes with him across the chaos, her smile ablade. Or watch it burn. He deflated, shoulders slumping like a punctured balloon. The king toppled. Sophia, please. We can talk, for old time's sake. His voice cracked. Pleading now, the power dynamic flipped like a coin in midair. Vanessa hissed something venomous, but Sophia ignored her, zeroing on him. Feel it, Jake. The helplessness, the erasure. Execution unfolded over weeks, a slow roast. Due diligence dragged, every email a dagger. Audits exposing his fudged numbers. HR files on inappropriate conduct. Jake called, texts flooded. Babe, mistake. Let's fix this. Blocked. A gala invite arrived, anonymous. Her doing, via Torres. She went, crimson gown flowing like blood, Jake cornered by the bar, tie askew, scotch trembling in his fist. You win, he slurred, eyes glassy with hate and hurt. Happy now? Her laugh? Low, liberating, bubbling from a wellspring long dry. Happier than you can imagine. But this isn't about winning, Jake. It's about what you forgot. I was never your sidekick. I was the story all along. She leaned in, breath ghosting his ear. Rot in the regret you built. Turned on her heel, leaving him amid the clink of glasses and murmurs, a ghost in his own empire. The empire? Hers now. Phoenix absorbed Hargrove, rebranded as Voss Visions, apps for aspiring writers, platforms empowering the overlooked. Sophia at the helm, board meetings in sunlit lofts, her voice commanding rooms that once echoed with his bluster. The novel, a bestseller, Oprah's book club nod sending it stratospheric. Family, Elena called, gushing apologies over brunch. Mom and Dad, tearful toasts at a reconciliation dinner. Marcus, hired him as a consultant, redemption with boundaries. But the sweetest. A quiet afternoon, months later, Jake, demoted to consultant in name only, spotted her at a coffee shop, the same one where they'd met. He approached, hat in hand, voice small. Sophia, congrats, you deserve it. She looked up from her laptop, mid-chapter, the steam from her latte curling like incense. No venom, just truth. I know, and went back to writing, his shadow shrinking in the doorway. Let's zoom in on that. Boardroom, shall we? Because if the setup was the fuse, this was the explosion. Raw, visceral, the kind of payoff that leaves you hollowed out and howling. The air in the conference center hung heavy, conditioned chill warring with the heat of 24 eyeballs drilling into Jake's back. He'd just wrapped his pitch, that cocky flourish of arms like a conductor claiming his orchestra, when Sophia's hand shot up. The moderator, a balding guy in a too-tight suit, nodded eagerly. Yes, the woman in emerald. Floor's yours. She stood, the chair scraping like nails on a chalkboard. Deliberate, that sound, a prelude to the symphony of his downfall. Heart, pounding. Sure, a trip hammer in her ribs, but she channeled it. Let it fuel the steel in her spine. This is for every night you made me feel small. Every lie you wrapped in love. Sunglasses perched like a crown, she crossed the aisle, heels echoing in the vaulted space, each step a declaration. Investors craned necks. Who was this enigma? Radiating quiet thunder? Vanessa at Jake's elbow preened, oblivious, her manicure tapping the table like Morse code for smug. Mr. Hargrove, Sophia began, voice amplified by the mic she claimed mid-stride, clear as a bell over the harbor fog. Impressive slides, all that talk of scaling to billions, bold, but let's cut to the bone. Your financials, I've reviewed them. A pause, pregnant, the room leaning in. Jake's smirk faltered, a twitch at the corner of his mouth. Gotcha. Embezzlement from the petty cash slush? Charming. And the consulting fees to your COO here. Nod to Vanessa, who froze, lips parting. In a silent O. For personal services. That's not synergy, Jake. That's fraud. Gasps cascaded, a wave crashing. An investor in pinstripes choked on his water. Another, a sharp-eyed woman with a severe bob, whipped out her phone, fingers flying. Jake rocketed to his feet, chair toppling with a clatter that mirrored the chaos in his eyes. Wide, wild, pupils blown like he'd mainlined panic. What the hell is this? Who are you? Spittle flecked his lips, tie askew, the golden boy unraveling thread by thread. Vanessa lunged for the mic, voice shrill as shattering glass. This is harassment. But Sophia cut her off, sunglasses sliding down her nose in slow motion, revealing eyes like polished obsidian, unblinking, unforgiving. The room stilled, breath held collective. Hello, Jake. 2 words, soft as silk over razor wire. His face, oh, the transformation was poetry. Color leached away, leaving putty-pale skin stretched taut over cheekbones. Then the flush roared, in neck mottling crimson, climbing to ears like stoplights. Mouth agape, a fish gasping on dry dock, he staggered back, hand groping for the podium as if it could anchor him. Sophia? No. You can't. Stutter stammer, the eloquent pitchman reduced to a toddler's babble. Vanessa's hand clamped his arm, nails drawing blood through his shirt, her own mask cracking, eyes darting, calculating escape. The moderator sputtered, "Ma'am, this is highly irregular." Irregular? Sophia echoed, a laugh bubbling low, genuine, laced with the sweet tang of vindication. It rolled through her, warming the hollows he'd carved, chasing shadows from corners. You want irregular? Try divorcing your wife of 7 years, stripping her bare, leaving her homeless on Seattle streets while you play house with your side piece here. Gestures sharp. Arm sweeping Vanessa, who recoiled as if slapped, perfume clouding acrid with fear sweat. Irregular is forging a prenup you hid, siphoning joint funds into your empire, then posting yacht pics while she's scavenging dumpsters. But me? I'm just the ghost come to collect. Pandemonium erupted, chairs scraping, voices overlapping in a cacophony of what? And holy shit! Jake lunged, crossing the stage in 2 strides, face a mask of fury and desperation, veins throbbing like rivers under siege. Get out! You bitch! You think you can waltz in here with your bullshit? Security! Now! His roar echoed, but cracked at the edges, raw with the terror of a man seeing his house of cards teeter. Hands balled to fists, knuckles blanching white. Sweat slicked his brow, dripping onto the collar that suddenly choked him. Security hovered at the doors, burly guys in ill-fitting blazers, but Sophia raised a hand, calm as a queen on her throne. Gentlemen, stand down. This is a business meeting, and Phoenix Ventures owns 52% of this circus as of 9 a.m. today. Gasps anew, sharper. She tapped her phone, and Torres's voice piped through the speakers, pre-recorded, damning. Audio clips of Jake's late-night calls, slurring orders to cook the books. Emails chaining Vanessa in the web. The room spun into frenzy, investors bolting upright, ties loosened like nooses slipped. Jake collapsed against the podium, a puppet with strings severed, his breath coming in ragged heaves that fogged the mic. How did you... Eyes searched hers, pleading now, the anger crumbling to dust, revealing the boy beneath. Scared, small, the underestimation boomeranging. Feel it, Sophia thought, triumph surging hot and holy through her veins, a release like orgasm after abstinence. The powerlessness I carried for you. No gloat in her voice, just ice-calm truth. You built this on my back, Jake. My silence, my sacrifice. Now, it's mine to dismantle. Vanessa bolted then, heels skittering on polished floor, purse clutched like a shield, but not before hissing over her shoulder. You're nothing, a lucky broke-ass nobody. Sophia's response? A single arched brow. The dismissal a whip crack. The woman fled into the hall, door banging like a guillotine fall. Jake slid to his knees, metaphorical if not literal, hands raking through sweat-damp hair. Please, Soph, we can negotiate for us. Remember the good times? His voice broke, a whimper wrapped in nostalgia. Tears, actual tears, streaking his cheeks, smearing the facade. The investors watched, a jury of suits, pity and revulsion mingling in their stares. One, the bobbed woman, shook her head, muttering, "Deal's off." Sophia's heart? It soared, untethered, the chains of betrayal shattering in a cascade of relief. Validation flooded her. Not just triumph, but wholeness. The girl on the cardboard reborn in fire. She stepped closer, towering now, and whispered low enough for only him. There is no us, Jake. There never was. You saw a prop. I was the playwright all along. Turned, back straight, the room parting like the Red Sea as she exited. Heels of victory march fading into echo. Outside, the skyline mocked him through the glass. His empire, now hers. Words spread like wildfire. Hargrove tanked overnight, shares plummeting. Jake ousted in a board vote that smelled of scorched earth. Vanessa, sued for breach, blacklisted in the valley. Sophia, she didn't crow publicly. No need. The quiet power of watching him beg emails, voicemails pleading one chance deleted unread. Each one a balm, soothing the scars. And in the quiet nights after, penthouse aglow with city lights, she'd pour a glass of Evelyn's Napa Red, toasting the mirror. To justice, to the women who rise. The emotional release, cathartic, tears hot and healing, laughter chasing them. Betrayal's sting dulled to a badge, underestimation to fuel. She'd won, not just the war, but herself. Stories like Sophia's remind us. Karma's not a myth. It's the echo of our own resilience bouncing back. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destruction. It's becoming undeniable. What would you do with a second act like that? Who? If that didn't leave you with chills and a grin a mile wide, check your pulse. Smash that like button. If Sophia's glow-up had you pumping your fist, drop a comment below. What's the sweetest revenge you've pulled off or witnessed? Spill the tea. I read everyone. And hey, subscribe for more raw, real Reddit tales that hit right in the feels. Turn on notifications so you never miss the drop. Thanks for riding this roller coaster with me. Catch you in the next one. Peace.